Okay, for today's video, we're going to go over some awesome new Australian fish figures called mini fish. And in this video, we'll go over how I found out about them, what they are, and what I would like to see from them in the future. And I will start by saying these could not have come out at a better time for me, right when I'm like really getting back into fishing and fish figures. So starting out with how I found out about these figures, it was, I believe, later in the day, January 18th, or really like early in the day, January 19th, like 1 a.m. type of, or 12, whatever, something like that. But either way, it was, so what happened was I was actually browsing for a separate kind of fish figure. I was browsing for replica toy fish and toy fish factory fish, which are figures that are pretty similar to these that I really like. And I believe I have most of, if not all the sets for both of these, but I still like to just look and see if I can find, well, one thing, I'm trying to find more information about those figures to like make a video on them as well. Because I do own most of them, but was just looking. And while I was scrolling looking for them, I found something about some fish figures on MiniZoo's website, which is a Australian animal figure company. Or they don't produce figures, I don't believe, but they sell animal figures. And it's a website I've seen before. And I've not ordered from them just because since they are in Australia, I would have had to pay more shipping compared to just ordering from, like, if it was like a Safari LTD figure, I could just order it from them and pay less. And it would take, a lot quicker to get here. So that's why I just hadn't ordered from them. But since I have been collecting like dinosaur, fish, and other animal figures throughout most of my life, I had seen their website before and was familiar with them. So I clicked on their website and I was browsing and I was like, they're not any of the figures I was looking for. But then I like saw something in their like brand section, or I found these somehow I was on their website and I found a thing called mini fish. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. What is this? I've never heard of this. And I didn't know if they were going to be like just some little cheap random things. I had no idea and I mean, I thought they would have probably been something decent because they were on MiniZoo's website. But like I said, I really had no idea. And then I clicked on it and I was like, oh my gosh, what are these? I've never seen anything like these. And they were the coolest thing. Like I said, sets of fish figures. I'm a sucker for them. I mean, with like Toy Fish Factory and stuff, I mean, these look very similar to those, except they're fish I'd never seen before. But the one thing that scared me was I saw that they were out of stock already, and I was like, oh my gosh. I found out about these awesome cool fish figures, and they've already sold out, and I don't know if I'll be able to get them now. And then I go I message MiniZoo, and I say, hey, I said something like, hey, I was just browsing your website and saw the mini fish figures. They look amazing, and I would love to get some, but I see they're currently out of stock, but also released earlier this year. Oh, yeah, that was something else. It showed that they released in 2026, so I was like, oh my gosh, so these have come out this year, and they're already sold out, and I've not been able to get them. So I asked, like, if they'd released yet, or if they'd already sold out, or if they're going to get restocked, or, if, like, they'd put them on the website but hadn't even, like, released them yet, or whatever. And then after sending that message, I happened to click on their Instagram story, and I saw that they were literally saying new figures coming out, and it was the stuff for minis, or for mini fish. I'll show like some of the pictures. I took screenshots of their Instagram story and stuff, and it turns out that they had not even released yet, and I literally happened to find them on their website like the day before they even came out. So that was really cool. And I also messaged in the same message that I'm talking about. I won't show the messages on screen. I mean, there was nothing like personal, but I just, without asking them if they would want to show the messages, I'm just not going to. But I asked also if it was their own brand, because it's just kind of interesting that it's called Mini Fish and the website's called MiniZoo, and it's like a new brand releasing. I thought, oh, this is their own brand, and they said actually, I think they said it was not their own brand actually, but it just kind of worked out that it's another brand that happens to have mini in the name that are Australian-based animals that the MiniZoo website will be selling, which I do think is kind of, I guess, funny in a way. But, yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. So, yeah, I guess now we can kind of get into the fish, unless there's something else I want to mention right now. Okay, before I get on talking about the brands themselves, or like the specific fish that they made and just some other stuff like that, I went over and looked at the messages again, and they did say, that they were being released today whenever I sent that message, and or like I think they replied to me like the next day, but whatever. They said that they were going to be releasing like really soon, and they said they actually, we didn't create the brand, but one of our customers saw a gap in the market and made them, and I told them, I totally agree. Fish seem to kind of have a lack in the market. especially for like like shark fish, which I mean I love sharks too. I mean literally in the like intro video I showed a great white shark figure I picked up, but I do think there's a lack of like other types of fish, stuff like the snapper and grouper and barramundi, some really cool stuff. But yeah, so I did want to mention that, and I'm just gonna get this part out of the way right now, and I'll probably talk about it later too. One issue that I will say right now, and it's not really, I mean, it's a big issue for me, but it's going to be literally nothing for a lot of other people. They currently don't ship to the U.S. Minifish has its own website. I found out later. This was after I found out that they weren't Minizoo's brand, but they also sell them obviously on Minizoo's website. That's how I found out about them. But Minifish and Minizoo, neither one shipped to the U.S. right now, and I think it's due to the tariffs, which obviously are very unfortunate. The tariffs are an issue where stuff like this, because I know like it benefits like U.S. businesses in a way and stuff, because like you'll buy from them, but when it's a product like this that there's not a U.S. like version of, it just you're pretty much just out of luck in a way. But they did tell me that they plan to hopefully be able to ship these in like the next few months. I think let me see. I think they said February. They should be able to ship. They're hoping to have their shipping to the U.S. Fixed. So yeah, I did want to say that. And I will say also, I think some of the Minifish figures have already sold out on Minizoo's website. I'm not for sure on the Minifish website, or either at their time of recording, but I did message them once I saw it. I was like, because I messaged them and I said whenever I found out that they couldn't ship to the U.S., and they said, yeah, these will be. They were gonna get after. Oh, I'm in a mess. Okay, whenever I found out that they weren't shipping to the U.S., but they said that that they plan to hopefully ship to the U.S. in the future, I saw that some had already sold out. I was like, oh crap! So, am I just out of luck on these? Are you all gonna get more? Or are these like a limited thing? I mean, I assume if they already sold out, hopefully they're gonna make more. But you never know. There's certain stuff that that they make limited stuff of. But they messaged me back and said, no, we're getting more in the future, so you don't have to worry. And I was like, awesome. But yeah, now let's actually get into what these figures are, because I think a lot of y'all are going to really like them once you see them. Okay, for this section, I'm literally just going to show a screen recording of all the products on screen. And this is on Minizoo's website. If you want to find them, you can probably just search them up here, but also you can just go to brands like this, scroll down to Minifish, and then you can click on the certain things. I'm just going to go to all Minifish for now, and you can do the view all, the key rings or sets, and pretty much what the deal is. So there's 2 tackle box style sets. Like I said, these are a lot like Toy Fish Factory. I will say before we show them, the biggest, so like I know there's replica Toy Fish and Toy Fish Factory, at least from looking at them. And if I didn't say this already, I do not have these in hand because, like I said, they don't ship to the U.S. yet. But they're a lot like Toy Fish Factory, where they come in sets of 5 in like a little tackle box style thing. But the biggest difference is that they're Australian-based fish. And I don't know as far as like the figure quality. They honestly look like they might be a little better looking figures, but they are more expensive. But the biggest difference I would say really is, because I think these are like around 30, 25-ish, and I think Toy Fish Factory were like 15 to 20. But the biggest difference is that these tend to be way more Australian fish compared to the Toy Fish Factory being U.S. and some global fish. But as of right now, Minifish appears to just be Australian fish. And I don't know if that's their like long-term plan or currently. I don't know. Obviously, if these sell well, I'm sure more stuff will come. At least I hope. So yeah, let's just go to view all. So pretty much what they are. So there's 10 different fish at the moment. So there's 2 tackle box sets that, as you can see on the Minizoo website, you can buy one set of 5, which is called the coastal fish set, and the other is called the tropical fish set, which is another set of 5. I don't know if these names are really like, I don't want to say the most fitting or not, but because like there's a snapper, I believe, in both sets. So I feel like, if you were going for like a theme set, you would put both snapper in one. And I think there's like a freshwater fish in one of these in the coastal set. I don't know. Or no, it's in the tropical set because it's the barramundi. Okay, whatever. But there's 2 different sets of 5. And there's just a cool, fun mix of Australian fish. And we'll go over each one. Some of these I'm pretty familiar with. And then I've not caught any of the fish in this video, though, I will say. Because like I said, I'm from the U.S. In Kentucky. You're not going to catch many of these fish around here. But I know about a lot of these fish. Actually, I might have caught one of these fish, depending on the technicality of what it really is. But yeah, let's just get into it. So like I said, there's 2 sets of 5, and pretty much, I forgot to mention this, but the key rings, if you all seen them, I believe they're literally just the figures, but with a key ring attachment. So you can buy one of them for like $10-ish, or you can buy the set of 5 for $30, but it's not the key ring figure. So I plan to buy both sets and maybe a few of the key rings whenever these do become available to order in the U.S. And so, yeah, we'll just go fish by fish. So the first one, the first 2 up here are 2 of the most iconic Australian fish. One is the GT, or giant trevally. This is the fish I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on, because I believe like John B and some of the other Dugan Squad members, maybe it was, I can't remember if this was a Dugan Squad video or a John B video, but I remember they had a big trip where they went and caught, and they call them GTs, or giant trevallies. And I believe these are also the fish that appeared in some big nature documentary that were like the big fish. If somebody knows which ones I'm talking about, please comment them down below. They're the ones that were literally like eating birds off the surface of the water. Super cool. But yeah, they're like a big jack, I believe. Something like a jack crevalle. I'm not as familiar with saltwater fish, so I could be completely wrong on this, but yeah, they're super cool. They're a really big fish. I think they get like 5 feet. They get really big. But yeah, really cool fish, and I believe they're really aggressive is one of their cool, and like they fight really hard. Yeah, and then the next one, and the GT is a saltwater fish. But then the next one is a freshwater fish. This might be one of the, I think a lot of these fish are like, can go in brackish water too, but this is a primarily freshwater fish, and it's the barramundi. Really cool fish. I think it's almost like Australia's equivalent to like the largemouth bass here. Not like how they're related to each other, obviously, but like just how like they function as like the big game fish for most of their Australia, like for how bass is for the U.S. But a really cool fish. And one thing that I did learn while like kind of looking into this video, the Nile perch, I believe, is actually the same genus as the barramundi. I could be completely wrong on this too, but I believe when looking it up, that was something I found out, because I was actually looking up something about another fish we're going to talk about later in this video. But yeah, I believe the barramundi and the Nile perch, if I'm right, I'll say it on screen or show it, I believe are the same genus of fish, which is really cool, which means the Nile perch is almost just a really big barramundi. Okay, now we'll continue on. Those 2 were probably the 2 I had the longest to like yap about, I guess. So we'll continue on. One's the mangrove jack, which looks a lot like a kind of snapper, and I believe it is. I think this is also what is called either the is it the dog snapper or the Cubera snapper in the U.S. I believe it's one of those 2. It's the same thing, but also has the mangrove snapper. It's something like that. I think it's the mangrove snapper. But this is a fish that has multiple names, but apparently in Australia it's called the mangrove jack. And like I said, it's also called the snapper, I believe mangrove snapper, and possibly some other snapper names. But yeah, really cool fish. So did want to mention that one, obviously. Then the Spanish mackerel, really cool fish. I believe when we went deep sea fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, somebody had caught a mackerel when we were there. I think it was a king mackerel, though. I can't remember for sure. It was either like a Spanish or king mackerel, a wahoo, or a barracuda, but I believe it was a mackerel, and I think it was a king or Spanish mackerel. So if one of those is only in the Gulf of Mexico, it was that one, obviously. So now we'll move on. Next, we have a really cool one, the coral trout, which once again showing I don't have as much knowledge on saltwater fish, but I believe this is actually a type of grouper, which is really cool because groupers are really, really popular fish throughout the whole like world to eat and just to fish for. But there's not many figures of it, which, like I was saying, the person who made these and me kind of agree on, not kind of, we both agree on that there's kind of a lack of fish figures, because like groupers should have way more figures. The only other grouper figure I can really remember at this moment is the Safari LTD grouper, which I believe is based off a Goliath grouper. But really cool to see the coral trout get a figure, because like I said, that's just a really cool grouper, which for as popular a fish as they are, don't get many figures. And then we get another one that's just called snapper. And I don't know exactly what type of snapper this is. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a red snapper, like what you catch around, not around here, but the one I've actually caught, or if it's supposed to be a different kind of snapper, because I believe snapper is a pretty big genus or group of fish in general. So yeah, either way, I mean, it looks a lot like a red snapper, except maybe how that head's shaped. Like, I don't know, like if you cut off like exactly where the head is, and maybe like larger snapper or smaller ones have like that more like bump on the top of their head, or maybe that's because this is a specific type of snapper that I'm not familiar with. But the fact that it just says snapper, and that I really love red snapper, and the red snapper kind of like groupers are really popular fish that I just don't have a figure of, I might just consider this a red snapper for me, unless I find out that it is specifically supposed to be another type of snapper. But being listed as just snapper makes me think it can be my red snapper figure I've wanted for so long. And then flathead, not flathead catfish, but another fish called a flathead. Like I said, I'm from the U.S., so I'm not very familiar with a lot of these fish, but yeah, don't know much about these fish. They look pretty cool, though, is all I really know to say on them. And then the mulloway, another fish I am very unfamiliar with. Don't know much at all about these. I guess then we'll move on to the brim, which is, I believe this is actually a saltwater or brackish water fish, but almost looks like Australia's equivalent of a bluegill. And I don't know if this is a freshwater or saltwater fish. I remember I looked a little on this fish, and I believe it said it was actually a brackish water fish primarily, but could be wrong on that. But yeah, it looks like you're almost like bluegill equivalent fish, but I could be very wrong on that. And then the kingfish, another fish I'm not super familiar with, looks almost like a tuna, but I could be wrong on that. And then the two sets. So the coastal fish set has the brim, the kingfish, the flathead, the snapper, and the mulloway. But then the tropical fish set has the GT, giant trevally, the Spanish mackerel, I believe. Yeah, the Spanish mackerel, the barramundi, the coral trout, and the Spanish, or the mangrove jack. So yeah, I believe that set sold out first, and I will say I think that's the cooler set personally, because like I said, I'm kind of, other than the snapper itself, I'm not very familiar with the coastal fish set, but the tropical fish set I'm pretty familiar with, or at least know a little bit about each fish in this set. Like I said, the GT, giant trevally, I think I've seen these in nature documentaries. And I know I've seen like the Guggen Squad members, like specifically John B. I can remember watching a video on YouTube of him catching these. Spanish mackerel, like I know a decent amount, well, I know somewhat about mackerel, because I believe we've had somebody catch one of these when we went deep sea fishing in the U.S. The barramundi, that's another fish. I've seen people catch these in the U.S. because I think they're actually raised in some ponds in the U.S. And then also I've seen like YouTube videos of people in Australia catching these. The coral trout, that's just, I mean, I don't know as much about the coral trout specifically, but where it is a grouper, I know a decent bit about groupers, so I do find that one really cool. And then the mangrove jack, like I said, kind of with the red snapper deal, it's a snappers, and I'm familiar with snappers. Not as familiar with this specific type of snapper, though, but yeah, makes for just a really cool set. And out of the two, that is my personal favorite of the two. So yeah, that is pretty much what mini fish is as of right now. But now I'm going to kind of talk about like what I would like to see from them in the future. So yeah, let's get into that right now. Now we'll talk about what I would like to see from this company or brand. I don't know exactly what the terminology I should use for that is, but what I would like to see from mini fish in the future. First one, easiest one for me is obviously just have these be able to be shipped to the U.S. because they're awesome and everything, but you know, if I can't enjoy them, obviously, I mean, it's just whatever for me then at that point. But I will say I literally considered trying to do like one of those things where you get these like shipped to Canada or some other country that will ship to the U.S. But that was like, that would honestly be crazy. Let's just see. And especially after I DM'd Mini Zoo and they said that they were trying to get them shipped to the U.S., then I was like, yeah, I'll just wait. So that is my first request, is either the Mini Fish website themselves or Mini Zoo, either one. And I think they're both trying, or I know for sure Mini Zoo is because they told me they were, but just make sure that these are able to be shipped to the U.S. and other countries. And for all I know, the U.S. might be the only country they don't ship to right now because obviously the current issues, but yeah. So that was my first big request. My second request is just continue making other cool Australian fish sets, because there's a lot of really cool Australian fish that even like I'm familiar with that they didn't include. Like the biggest one, and literally might be the biggest, I think it is the biggest freshwater fish in Australia, the Murray cod. This is a fish I've seen in, I actually don't remember if it was specifically River Monsters or one of those other similar shows like Chasing Monsters or whatever, or Catching Monsters. There There was two other shows a lot like River Monsters. I'll throw them both up on screen if I can remember what they were, but both were really similar to River Monsters, and I can't remember if it was those shows or River Monsters specifically. I do think it was River Monsters that did have an episode on this fish, but either way, I remember seeing this on one of those shows for sure, if not all of them. But the Murray cod, it's like the biggest fish in Australia, and it's super cool, freshwater. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't include a Murray cod, really. So that would be my number one request if they continue making these, is have a set with the Murray cod. And then some other really cool Australian fish. Murray cod was the first one that I could really think of, because like when I think of Australian fishing, barramundi and Murray cod are the like top two that come to mind, especially for freshwater, because I'm mainly a freshwater angler. So, but then I also thought of some other cool stuff, like because like I said, a lot of my familiarity with like Australian fishing is stuff like river monsters and stuff. So obviously I thought of like stuff like the bull shark and some other stuff like that, like the sawfish, which I believe was also in River Monsters for Australia. I think there was a whole episode where actually both of those two are featured pretty heavily. So yeah, I don't know if they want to go the shark route or not, but that would be really cool to see. I think would be like, maybe like call it like Australian giants or something. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. That would be cool. But yeah, do like the Murray cod, the bull shark, the sawfish. Ooh, something cool also. The Queensland grouper. I mean, I've already been talking about grouper because I think Jeremy also catches that. Like I said, a lot of the Australian fishing I'm familiar with is thanks to stuff like river monsters. But so yeah, I think of those types of fish. So yeah, any of those would be really cool, especially the Murray cod. That's probably my number one wish list fish, because even like Toy Fish Factory, which had a lot of global sets, I'm not even for sure if they plan to do a Murray cod. I think that they did plan on doing a barramundi because they had like a global angler set, and I think it might have been the Nile perch, but I don't remember them for sure doing the Murray cod. So I'd love to see the Murray cod released. Like I said, that's probably my number one. And then just, I mean, maybe some other like big like saltwater fish. They're kind of global as well. Maybe like some sort of tuna. I think yellowfin are pretty prevalent, or something like that. Maybe in Australia, could be wrong on that. Or like some sort of like sailfish, swordfish, marlin type of deal. But I'm pretty sure these are Australian. I think they're at least Indo-Pacific, like mud skippers. I'm pretty sure they're Australian. They would be really cool. So yeah, the Murray cod's easily my number one. And if they want to go the shark route, like a bull shark and sawfish would be really cool. I think sawfish are actually like closely related to stingray, if I'm remembering right. But Murray cod's my number one. And then like I said, those like shark, sawfish type of stingray. Speaking of, I mean, I know they're kind of probably controversial in Australia with what happened and all. But yeah, some stuff like that would be cool, obviously, but would love to see the Murray cod. That's my easy number one. Please release a Murray cod figure. Like I said, I'm honestly a little surprised that maybe Murray cod aren't as popular really in the country as like people like me think, just because like I said, my familiarity with Australian fishing only due to stuff mainly like river monsters. But the Murray cod, the Queensland grouper would be really cool. Because I think it's really similar to like the Goliath grouper, because I mean they're just both massive grouper, and I think they're not the same type of grouper. I don't know if maybe it's a deal where they're the same fish but a different name, but either way would be really cool to see it included. But yeah, Murray cod, the grouper, the bull sharks, and I know great white sharks also. You could do it like other sharks as well, but bull sharks I think of also because of river monsters. But yeah, and then, like I said, the mud skipper. And there's a lot of other cool, I'd love to know what you all would like to see from them as far as Australian fish. But the Murray cod, like I said, I know I've said it probably 100 times. I probably said Murray cod more in this video than I've said Murray cod in my whole life. But would love to see a Murray cod figure. Okay, and then my final one, make just global fish. I mean, I'm sure this brand is 100% just going to be depending on how well they do, but the fact that they've already sold out their mini zoo stock, at least their initial mini zoo stock, and I don't know how many they had. Maybe they only had like 10 sets, but for all I know, but either way, they sold out, which is a good sign. So hopefully these are as popular as I want them to be. And like I said, and this is when they can't even ship to the U.S. right now. So I would love to see them do global fish, though. Like the freshwater fish that are in the U.S., I would love to see like all over the country, like Wales catfish from Europe, Nile perch from Africa, the taimen, I believe, from like Russia, Mongolia area. Just trying to think of a really cool big fish from like each country. I said the whales catfish from Europe. Australia is obviously going to be covered, but want that Murray cod still. South America, Arapaima easily, even though I do have an Arapaima figure, but I would not mind getting another one. I guess like the alligator guard from the U.S. I think I've covered most of the larger continents now. Yeah, whatever. Would love to see a ton of these cool fish figures get made, but obviously I know right now that they're just doing the Australian sets, and there's a lot more cool fish to do in Australia. So yeah, my top 3 like wish list. Number 1, easily make these available to be shipped to the U.S. And then number 2, continue making cool Australian sets, specifically including, and I'll say it for one last time, the Murray cod. And then finally start to do some global sets. But yeah, as of right now, that's my wish list for the 3. But yeah, either way, these look awesome. If you have a chance to get some of these, would definitely recommend doing it. I haven't seen anybody talk about these yet on YouTube, but would love to see some videos of people getting these in hand. Like I said, if I do a video getting these in hand, it'll probably be at least a month or so because, well, for one, I can't order them yet. And then 2, obviously they'll take a little bit to get to the U.S. once that does happen because they will be shipped from Australia. Actually, won't be the first time I have ordered something from Australia. I actually ordered some Australian or some Dinosaur King figures from Australia. If you know what Dinosaur King is, peak is all I'll say. But yeah. But yeah, I think these things are awesome. Would definitely recommend purchasing them if you get the chance. And I'll provide a link to you both the Mini Fish website themselves and the Mini Zoo website. Both, I think either one are fine to order from. I mean, I know Mini Zoo itself is fine to order from, and I mean, I'm pretty sure it's the legit Mini Fish website because yeah, I think I saw it on the box or something. Whatever. These look awesome. Definitely recommend checking them out further from what I've mentioned in this video. And if you can order them, I would recommend getting them. Like I said, the second that these become available to order in the U.S., I plan on getting them myself. But that's it. Would love to know your all's thoughts as far as what you all would like to see from this company. What you all, like I said, I want them to come to the U.S., make more figures. But yeah, that's what I would like to see from them. But I would love to know what you all would like to see. Like maybe you have a really cool Australian fish that, like I said, I didn't even mention in this video that you would think would be awesome. Because I'm sure there's a lot more because, like I said, I'm just not as familiar with Australian fishing. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. Like I said, please let me know any thoughts or anything you've got on this set. Oh, and one thing I guess I should mention. The next video was planned to be like my Christmas or return to fishing lures, etc. haul. But obviously, like something like this pops up, I'm going to make a video about it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm out. And once again, please let me know your thoughts or anything on mini fish because these, I think, look awesome personally. Okay, one thing I did want to add here at the end of the video after looking, I believe that the Kingfish is actually either a type of or closely related to amberjacks, which are a really cool fish because actually that is a fish I kind of forgot about, but I do remember one year when we were fishing that, actually, now that I think about it, I can't remember if it was an amberjack or a cobia that somebody caught when we were deep sea fishing. It was one of the two, or maybe we've actually caught both of these when we went deep sea fishing. But yeah, I do know a little bit about amberjacks, so I did kind of forget about them. But yeah, I believe that the Kingfish, which is another one of these fish that in these sets, I will say, appears to have multiple names depending on where they're from or just can have multiple names in general. But yeah, I did want to add this here at the end just because I did think that was really cool.